And here we go. And it seems like
go.
it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We're going to be talking about mail a lot today. But first, blue cheese. And full disclosure, I don't like blue cheese, but this is a really funny commercial, and we'll get into a little bit of it as we go. I did speed it up a touch because it's a little bit long. Sorry. That's the way it is. And dun da da da, here we go. Destination Treasure Cave.
Where cheese becomes so blue. For a cave it's welcoming and delicious too.
Here there are no seas and sunlight, grass, but there is hay.
Hank.
If that sounds peculiar, trust the process.
That's
Our
Hank.
cheese is super dank.
Some things we crave are oh so funky, science is so cool. Cool.
It seems like that would not make sense, but we don't
It
make
makes
the
sense to me.
rules.
Welcome to the treasure cave where blue cheese gets its fun. This taste you cannot replicate, so please enjoy your hunk.
Treasure cave, you might love it here.
Oops. Okay, so that's that, yeah. And I learned that Asiago, I think, is also blue cheese. I once ordered a steak with Asiago. What do I know? There's about 1,000 million kinds of cheese. I'm in Wisconsin. We love cheese. And it came with blue cheese. Apparently that's an Italian type of blue cheese or something like that. Anyway, so be careful. Be careful what you order. Ask the waiter. Don't try to be cool. Let's get over to the story about the blue cheese. But first, I want to talk about yesterday's show where we had an article by J.C. Lupus, and J.C. cited a study that U.S. direct mail volumes are up for 2 years in a row. Dun da da. But he said that it was millions. Down here it says the money was billions, but the amount of mail was millions, 73 million. There he said it for sure, explicitly. So that threw me off. And, that started getting me thinking. And marketing charts should have labeled it, but I overdid it because it wasn't a very good graph. It wasn't labeled billions. It's billions. Okay, it's billions. I was right. Got to trust me sometimes. And I did put a note to another graph that was excellent, but I couldn't get my hands on it to print it. They're tricky that way. And stats or something, statistics or stats something or other. But they had the real numbers, and it showed, like this one, that mail has been higher and then went down. And it was in 2007, before the Great Recession, it was even higher still. So those recessions have not helped the mail volume. Okay, so what's the story about? This is from Amy Houston, of course, who I always check up on. It's set in a handmade cheese cave, or a handmade cave. I don't know. I think that's just the set for shooting it. Blue cheese is a divisive food. Yes, I agree. But Treasure Cave, this brand, is leaning into this feeling with an upbeat yet strange ad. It is a very, very strange ad. Okay, I'd like to know where it's airing, but Amy didn't go into that. My word, it's an odd. Okay, so let's get over to this story. Quad wins AARP print gig and a Costco assignment, but revenues lag. Well, revenues are down from last year. Lower paper and print sales contributed to a 7% revenue decrease. And prices are probably up, so that's actually more than that, right? Wouldn't you say? But they landed 2 accounts, AARP and Costco. So, Quad's in a funny position where they have almost a monopoly on long-run printing. since Donnelly has floundered for so long, now I forget the name. Talk about rebranding disaster. Okay, I printed with Donnelly, R.R. Donnelly, spelled with 2 L's and 2 E's. And, L something or other. And I can't remember it, but whatever they named it, it's, talk about a branding disaster. They would have been better off calling it bigprinter.com or something. Anyway, but Quad is promoting and talking about all their other services, and yet it seems that print is one of the big segments. So that puts you in a funny situation, not unlike the USPS, which we'll get to in a second. So Jim Richard, I believe we're connected. If we're not, we should be, is involved with the USPS political division. Let's see down here, we get his specs. This is a promoted, he serves as the USPS National Political Campaign Strategist. Okay, he had some interesting stuff to say. Richard, wait, let's see, Jim, I wondered if you knew Elena Neely. Elena and I go way back to when I was training USPS salespeople, or helping to, and created a tool for talking to big brands about their possibility of using mail. It was an excellent program. We did work with Kaiser Permanente, Anheuser-Busch, Circuit City, Panasonic, Oakley Sunglasses. Alina and I worked on that one together. And a number of other big names that all did some mail, did some testing. Unfortunately, it was really, what I did was the salespeople went out and talked to these brands. This is patterned after Derek, oh my gosh. Anyway, the Royal Mail hired basically a consulting and training firm to work with their salespeople. And when the salespeople found print opportunities, they would hand them off, and then the consultants would work directly with the brands. The USPS didn't want to do that so directly, so they handed things to me, and I wrote reports on how direct mail could work for these brands. And like I said, we did, I don't know, I would guess at least 18, and almost all of them were recognized national advertising brands. That's, Lisa, I don't know if you've heard of that program. I probably should. DMDP, I remember the name of it. I still have the reports over here on the shelf. If you're interested in perhaps partnering ANA with USPS, it would be an excellent thing to resurrect, I think. And it was not shut down because it wasn't effective. There were some other mitigating circumstances which were super unfortunate and political and had nothing to do with the quality of the work. But anyway, so Elena's one of my favorite USPS people, although they retire early because they have a great pension plan, I think. So Jim says that nearly 80% of this session of dozens of political operatives. I thought an operative doesn't that sound like organized crime or maybe the CIA? Kind of a little bit. But they all said, almost 80% said they evolved their mail strategy during the last election cycle. And the main things they were doing was mailing earlier, more frequently, and smarter. Okay. So that was last election cycle. I'm guessing that's 2022. Mailing earlier to establish credibility. I do look at political mail. I look at political mail more than I look at almost anything else, especially during the primaries. But the problem is most campaigns either talk badly about their opponents, but don't talk about what their own positions are. They don't even list their political party oftentimes. And so, they give you just enough information to not be very helpful. And so that's turned me off to most of the political mail that I receive. And some of it is downright lies. I know that it is because if I know the opposing candidate personally, which sometimes I do, and they say things about them, then I know not to vote for the person who mailed me. So it can be cut two ways, double-edged sword. But anyway, it says 48% of surveyed voters in our latest research, I'm assuming that's USPS. I would love a footnote there. I think maybe that asterisk is a footnote. Stated that direct mail was the most memorable form of political advertising. Absolutely. And, the other thing I like about it is that unlike it being in my Facebook feed or my LinkedIn feed or some other place like that where I don't really want it and I have to avoid looking at it, I can look at my leisure and check it out a little bit. It lets me look when I feel like looking. Okay, and so that's the optimal time. The optimal time is what the consumer decides is the optimal time. I'm not sure you can necessarily time it, but this was a good point here. A majority of surveyed voters preferred to learn about a candidate's stance on domestic and global issues right before the debates took place. Which also means if you're a cataloger or some other major mailer, you might want to avoid that window just by a couple of days. Mail it a little late, mail it a little early. Avoid the right before the debates, especially those national debates, like the presidential debates. Excellent point, and it should be taken into account in your planning for 2024, especially, right? Okay, supplement digital targeting. Okay, and digital targeting is getting to be more and more of an oxymoron. The challenges of digital targeting, limitations, rising costs, increased skepticism. All of those are true in my case. Emphasizing the importance of direct mail within the media mix because direct mail is offline and we can read it at our leisure, right? And direct mail's unique ability to target specific audiences and provide memorable personalization makes it a superior weapon. And apparently, both political parties have excellent databases, better than the voting rolls, I'm told. Yes, sir. 39%. This was funny, though. For example, in our latest research, 39% of Hispanic voters received political mail in Spanish. Yeah, one of the first campaigns I worked on, I think it was George McGovern. I was a senior in high school in 1972, and I went door to door on the Strand, which is a street in Waukesha that was almost entirely Spanish. And I'd had, at that time, 4 years of Spanish by then, and which didn't mean I could speak it, but I could kind of say hello. But it was a fairly isolated community, and I think in Milwaukee it's relatively isolated. It doesn't have to be, but it would seem like you could do better than 40% of the mailing. If the mailing is Hispanic, you'd think you could get better than 39% of the Hispanic voters to receive it in Spanish. That sounds like a pretty bad targeting. In all honesty, I don't know that direct mail is any better at targeting than anything else. But the truth is we can tell sometimes on the back end which demographic patterns are most solid. Not at the household level, not even at the carrier route level, not maybe even at the zip code level, but at the national level we certainly can. Certainly can isolate differentiating factors that do have causal force. Okay, also Postal Service, again, always mentions informed delivery. Almost 2/3 of informed delivery featured preview emails are open. And I don't open mine at all. I don't open any informed delivery, but this is a subset. They claim really high open rates, like 67%, which is nothing compared to mail, which is almost 100%, right? And by open, I mean looked at and made a decision. As always, I say, taking action, every mailing piece requires taking action. Yesterday I got a mailing piece from the insurance company, which we seem to get almost every day, and also a credit card offer. And so the credit card offer went into the trash, but I remember it. And the insurance went onto my wife's desk here at the office. So, so physical mail actually is more memorable than informed delivery. But like Quad, it seems sometimes that USPS has given in to the digital hype and come up with this digital thing. They don't charge for it, so it doesn't increase revenue, I don't think. And every time I ask mailers about it, I'd love to hear your opinion. Oh, here it is. USPS marketing. Oh, good. David Foley. USPS marketing mail volume over time is in my book. Oh, in your book. I have his book right here. This is the next edition. This is David Foley's book on page 6, he says, or 7, right at the beginning. He also has a bunch of stuff on, okay, USPS, mail volume, yes, and it kind of slipping down and up and everywhere you look, okay, in billions. See, David Foley had it right. And there's another one, marketing mail volume, in billions. 2 pages. It's on both page 4 and page 5. FYI. Thank you for that, David. Yeah. So anyway, they've caved to the digital revolution. An interesting point was made down here that Gen Z voters only 59% check at least 4 days a week, whereas the boomers check 86% of them check for at least 4 days a week. I don't check 4 days a week, and the reason is because the mailbox isn't as full. We used to have to check daily, especially in the fall when the catalogers really got hold of us, because the mailbox would get so full you couldn't get any more in there. But now it's not, and so you don't have to rush. And you know that the Postal Service has slowed delivery on that a little bit, and so, but according to this, focusing on personalized messaging. Now, yesterday's show, we saw that personalization was not a big deal in terms of generating action. And too often, personalized just means you put their name on the envelope. Or a QR code that goes to your generic website. It's not. That is, you can get some postal discounts sometimes. The USPS runs a special. Anyway, contact USPS direct mail specialists to discuss how to incorporate. See, and now they have their own specialists. Now, do they know anything? Well, I'm open to feedback on that. We can have a review. But I was probably the first direct mail specialist that the USPS hired, I have to say. And you can call me too. And I will give you the unbiased take on anything you might be thinking. But also, if you're considering that, I would suggest you go over to WDMA.org, check out some of the information. We have like 500 podcasts up there. We have all the articles, all the show notes marked up with my own pen. And consider joining and supporting this effort, because as far as I know, I'm the only marketing news show that covers direct mail every day, or almost every day, but certainly more than anybody else. In fact, there aren't very many direct marketing news shows. So have a great day. Like and share. Repost on LinkedIn. Repost. Your friends will know you're smart.